Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at Assetto Corsa, how we can get the most out of the experience using mods, installing cars, installing tracks, things like weather effects, shaders, everything from start to finish. By the end of today's video, you should be an expert and well on your way to modding Assetto Corsa. So, let's get going. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a web browser, head over to assettocorsa.club, and I'll put links down in the description for everything that we're going to be doing today as well, just to make it easy for you. But assettocorsa.club, we're going to click on the link in the top bar here, navigation panel, that says Content Manager. Now, Content Manager is essentially a replacement UI for Assetto Corsa. So instead of launching Assetto Corsa and playing from there, we're actually going to be launching Content Manager. And then when we hit the go button, once we've set everything up, that actually launches the gameplay itself from there. So it's a complete replacement UI. It does seem quite overwhelming at first. There's a lot of things you can do here, but the basic functionality is very straightforward and I think actually easier to use than the Assetto Corsa UI. So absolutely essential piece of software and the backbone to everything else that we're going to be doing. It allows us to install cars, install tracks, mods, custom shaders, lighting, rain effects, you name it, pretty much Content Manager can do it. So we can scroll through here, you can see a bunch of the features that this does add through the blurb on the website. I'm not going to read through all of this now, we're just going to take you through the essentials. We keep scrolling down here and you can see it takes us through custom shaders patch as well, which is something we'll be looking at in just a moment. Keep on scrolling all the way down to the bottom. So we can see here a link to download the light version, and it says to unlock the full program version, you'll need to transfer any amount of money using one of the following systems. Now, this is an honor-based system, so you can get away with transferring a small amount of money. I would take this from the mentality of transferring what you can afford rather than what you can get away with. It really is fantastic software, as you're going to see in just a moment, and they really do deserve your support to keep on developing software for the sim racing community. So give them a decent donation. Don't just transfer a couple of bucks, but you know, if that's all you can afford, then that's fine as well. What they'll do is they'll email you an unlock code, which is going to give you the full functionality of the software. So we're going to click on download. That's going to start our download running. And you can see it's a very quick download. There's not a whole lot to it. It's very simple. We're going to go show in folder. We're going to unzip the file. So extract all. Extract. And you can see that we just have an executable file called Content Manager. And you can see here just how simple this is. We've already unpacked the Content Manager.executable, and that is literally all we have to do. It does recommend you don't put it in a read-only location, so don't put it in your Assetto Corsa file under Program Files on your C drive. I normally just leave this on my desktop, to be honest with you. That way it syncs across to my other machines as well, and I can run it from those two via the cloud. So we'll close that off again. Literally just drag Content Manager.exe off the screen here onto my desktop. We'll close off our browser here too and double click on the Content Manager executable file. So when we open up the executable for the first time, we'll be presented with this screen. Automatically detected my default install location for Assetto Corsa, but if you have changed your installation location and it's not able to find it for any reason, then you can specify exactly where you've got it installed here. Doesn't matter whether you've got it installed through Steam or just through standard Windows installation, we'll detect it. Also enter your Steam ID as well, so it can link things up there, and you can enter your player name too. So I'm just going to enter my name like so. And then there's a range of different plugins which you can install from here as well. So I'm just going to go through and install every single one of these quickly. You can see if we scroll down, there's quite a few of them to go through. Now, occasionally when you hover over them, they do kind of highlight funny like that, just a bug in the installation software, but nothing to worry about. So just get all of those installed, and then once you're done, click OK. So we've got all of those plugins installed. Now, we did get an error message here on Ceph Sharp 91, but we do have the version 79 installed, so it shouldn't be an issue, not too worried about that. We're going to click OK, and that now brings up the Content Manager UI. So as I said before, this is a complete replacement for the default UI inside Assetto Corsa, and when we click this little Go button here, that is going to launch straight into the gameplay. So you can see up here a little orange marker saying switch to full version. You can see there is a lot of stuff that we can do here in the light version as well, so you can definitely have a good experience here. But if you really want to get into stuff and get the most out of the game, as I said before, it is important to activate. So we're going to click on switch to full version here, and you can see we get a little dialog box here to insert our app key, which will be emailed when we make that donation. So fully activated now, and we have complete access to all of the features that Content Manager has to offer. So let me quickly run you through the interface here. We're not going to go through absolutely every single setting, of course, but I just want to cover off the main stuff here where I think most people are going to be spending most of their time. So we've got a standard single player mode here, allows us to set the time of day, real life conditions, ideal conditions, of course, temperature, weather settings as well, track conditions, so between dusty, old, green, slow, fast, and optimum, of course. We We can add additional cars that we want to race against as well. So you can see at the moment only the Abarth 500 is selected, but we just click on the plus sign to add additional cars in. We can adjust the opponent strength here as well. So this little slider allows us to adjust the range, and you can see here we go from a minimum of say 85% to plus 5.2%, and we can adjust that range as we see fit, depending on our skill level, or we can have all the cars around the same strength as well, should we wish to do so. I tend to like to have a wider range, just so we get a little bit more variance throughout the field. If you're doing a last to first challenge, you start off with easy overtakes and it gets harder as you progress through the field. Opponent aggression adjustment here as well, all pretty standard stuff. The ability to switch on and off penalties. Penalties for jumping the start. And we also have a little drop-down menu here as well that allows us to choose between a gamer, intermediate, and pro. If we choose gamer, you can see here there's a couple of assists that it will either enable or disable, and you can, of course, customize this too. We have the ability to switch on and off tire blankets. We can also customize all of these settings in here too. So automatic shifting, automatic clutch, auto blip, ideal line, ABS settings, traction control settings, you name it, everything can be adjusted from here. And as you can see, you can also save presets too. So you can save a preset, reload it again for next time. You can choose between different presets here as well. And if you want to send those presets across to a friend so you can do ideal conditions between the two, you can do that too. So you can set up presets for individual components like what we have here, or you can set up a preset for the overall settings for that entire page too. And you can see across the top here, we have practice mode, hot lap, time attack race, track day, weekend, drift, and drag practice modes too. So I would recommend go through those, explore them, and just sort of familiarize yourself with exactly what they offer. We don't need to go through every single one of them here for the context of today's video. We also have the ability to choose between different cars here too. So we click on the little garage button here, and that brings up a new prompt. We can choose between the cars that we have installed. Simply just choose the car, click on it. It gives you a little bit of information about the car here too, and then you can click OK to choose a car. There is also a little preview mode too as well, which is really nice. Same deal for choosing tracks as well. Click on the change track button, brings up the prompt, and we can choose between all of the tracks that we have installed. We can jump across to challenges now, and that gives us a bunch of different racing modes between time attack, drag, drift, races. Again, there's a huge amount of stuff here to go through. We can join online lobbies here as well by clicking on live and join through the sim racing system, World Sim Series, Track Titan, or RSR. Again, we don't need to go into all of those now. And also, of course, just standard online Kunos lobbies here too. So we click on online, and that allows us to jump into any one of the online lobbies which are available. So we'll go across back into single player mode again for now. Now, if we have a look across the top here, you can see a selection of additional tabs here too. So our drive tab is where we've been doing everything so far. We also have a tab for lap times, results, media as well. So this is where we'd store our replays. This is a completely virgin installation of Assetto Corsa here, so I don't have any media in here currently. We've got our content tab as well. This is where we can go through all the various cars and tracks that we have installed, as well as miscellaneous mods, tools, and so forth. We can also have the ability to get new mods from here as well, and we're having a look at this in just a second. We then click across to our settings tab, and this is where all the really detailed stuff is. So these are our basic settings for Content Manager. We've got tabs for general, appearance, content, custom showroom, and so forth. And I'm not going to go into all of these settings for now. For the most part, you're not going to need to do much tweaking in here. There's a bunch of guides online for optimizing, and I'll put some links down in the description below for some of the videos that I would definitely recommend watching to optimize for different types of usage. So if you want photorealism, you can do that. There's a bunch of different mods which you can install to achieve all sorts of different things. And you're going to kind of beyond the scope of today's video, but I will make some recommendations a little bit later on in the video. Continue through here. You can see all the various different settings that you can change as they pertain to Content Manager specifically. And then if we click across to the Assetto Corsa tab, this is where we adjust our settings as they pertain to the sim specifically. So this is like a replacement for the settings menu inside the standard UI. So we can set our app settings here, video settings, so graphics settings, and there are a bunch of guides online. I'll recommend some down in the description below for optimizing these settings. We might run through a couple of things here a little bit later on in the video, but again, it's going to depend on what you're doing. You can see there's a setting for single screen here, triple screen, VR as well. And importantly, you can save profiles for each of these too. So what I generally do is I set up one for single screen, set up one for triple screen, set up one for VR, and then I can easily switch between them from the menu here. So we just go save preset, save it in here, and then it will then show up in the menu, and we can choose between. So it makes it easy to switch between different profiles without having to go through and set everything up from scratch every time. Now, if we continue down to controls here as well, this is where we can map our controls for everything. So it's as simple as just choosing wheel, steering, just turn my wheel, throttle, push the throttle pedal, brake, push the brake pedal, clutch, and handbrake. I don't actually have a handbrake on my rig at the moment. And you can also adjust your sensitivity and linearity from here as well. So say, for example, if you wanted to make your brake a little bit more sensitive, all you need to do is just reduce the maximum threshold here. And now I have to push the pedal a lot lighter to get 100% full scale deflection there. So easy to fine tune everything from here too. We can adjust our gamma, our minimum point as well. If you need to add in some Z zone, you can invert, all the standard stuff that you would expect from any sort of control configuration interface. You can see all of our buttons are showing up here as well, so we can map all of those. So we've got our axes, our buttons, so shifter up, shifter down, and so forth. You get the point. We don't need to go through all of this here right now. We can also, of course, adjust our force feedback settings from in here too, exactly the same as we would within the game, although we do have a couple of additional settings in here which we don't get inside the standard UI. So then we go across to custom shaders patch, and this is where the magic starts to happen in terms of really starting to, add on top of what you can get from the standard Assetto Corsa experience. So we're going to click on the custom shaders patch tab. And you can see here, we don't have it installed by default. You don't need to go to a different web page to download this. All you need to do is just click on install, and that is going to install the mod for us. So that'll take a couple of seconds to install depending on your connection speed, of course, and you'll be presented with the about and updates page here. So you can see this has unlocked a huge list of additional tweaks which we can add in to tweak the graphics and the way things look inside Assetto Corsa. Now, I know this looks quite overwhelming. Again, there's a ton of guides available. I'll drop a couple of links down in the description below for you guys once again. The default settings here are pretty good, and I'd recommend just going in, using these settings as a base point, and then you can fine tune and tweak depending on your preference there. Most of the really interesting stuff happens around lighting effects. You can tweak things in here. Brake disc effects is a really cool one as well, allows the brake disc to glow. Particle effects, reflection, and weather effects as well is a really important one. So get in there, fiddle around, but you can see by default it's put a bunch of settings in and activated most of the things you're going to want. Depending on the performance of your PC graphics card as well, that will determine what you're able to get away with. Obviously, the more stuff you add in, the more load that's going to be putting on your system. And there are some things like shadow effects and shading, for example, which do have a disproportionately large impact on performance. So again, it's just going to be a matter of going in there, fiddling around, but you don't need to do too much here just to get up and running straight out of the box. And you can see by default in here, it is also auto updating to the most recent version. I normally just change this to updating every day rather than every 30 minutes, just because I don't want to be polling the network while I'm doing online racing or anything like that. So yeah, that's all good. Now, there are experimental and beta versions of the custom shaders patch available, which have additional features above what we have in the standard release versions, and those are available to the developers' Patreon supporters. So I've been on that program for a little while as well, probably about 6 or 7 months now, and sometimes it can be a little bit buggy, but it does unlock some pretty cool additional features too. So if you really want to experiment and fiddle around with things, I would definitely recommend doing that. But for basic users that just want to get up and running and don't want to have to fiddle around with stuff too much, then you don't necessarily need to do that. So that's a rundown on the basic functionality of Content Manager as well as custom shaders patch. Now let's get into installing mods, tracks, and cars. So what we're going to do is jump back to our content tab here, click on mods. Now, if it is the first time running, you will see a little prompt to create a mods directory. Just click on that and you'll be presented with this screen. So we have the available mods here, which are the mods which are installed on the PC but not necessarily active, and then a list of installed mods which are actually active and running on Assetto Corsa on the right hand side. And you can obviously move between the two sides depending on what you're wanting to do. And you can see here now we've installed the LA Canyons 1.2 maps. That actually comes included with a couple of mods inside the install package. And you can see those are in the installed and active column. If we were to want to disable them, so for example, we want to disable the hide pit crew mod, so the pit crew show up beside the road, then we could just move that. So highlight it, click disable, moves across to available but not currently active, and vice versa. If we want to enable it, we just click enable, and it is as simple as that. Now, the one essential mod which I would recommend everybody downloads is a mod called Sol, and that allows us some additional weather effects on top of what we have with custom shaders patch. So things like enhanced rain effects on the windscreen, wet track surface, all those kinds of things which we don't get in the standard vanilla Assetto Corsa. So what we're going to do is open up our web browser once again. We're going to go to race department. Again, I'll drop the link down in the description below for you guys, but you can just Google Assetto Corsa Sol and that'll take you to this page as well. Make sure you're logged in, and we're going to click on download. It's going to take us across the download page. That is downloading now. 244 megabytes, so it is a slightly larger download than the previous one. And there's a couple of notes here on the developers page on race department as well. So it's noting here, Sol doesn't actually bring rain into Assetto Corsa. It just gives us some additional weather effects and things that we can control on top of what's available through custom shaders patch. So again, there's a bunch of videos here showcasing how to install step-by-step guides and so forth, but we'll quickly run you through in today's video the basic steps. Now you can see there is a link to the install guide just here. And if we scroll down a little bit to page, where are we? Page 8 of 18. It recommends here that we always install Sol by manually copying the files to the AC folder. So it's one of the few mods which we do want to manually install rather than installing through Content Manager. That just makes sure that all the files are correctly installed and we don't run into any issues. And then there are some notes here around configuration, which we'll run through in just a moment too. So we'll wait for that download to finish and I'll show you how to get that installed. So we're going to open up the Sol zip file here. And I'll just move this back out of the way again quickly so we're not getting too much going on the screen at once. So bring up my installation guide here. So it says open the Sol zip, which we've done. In the zip, go to the mods and then Sol 2.1. So Sol 2.1 or whatever version you happen to be on. You can see there's a bunch of explanation files here as well as configuration guides and all sorts of stuff here. So again, you can go into all of this yourself and really get to know exactly all the things you can do. There's a massive amount of things that you can do to really tweak and get the most out of the experience depending on what you want. But we'll open up Sol 213 and then it says copy the folders, apps, content, extension, and system to the AC root folder. So we're going to open up a new window. Additionally here, we'll open it up by side and just squish this down. So just Windows key and the letter E on your keyboard to open up a new Explorer window. I'm going to go to the installation directory for Assetto Corsa, which in my case is in the Steam folder. So program files, Steam, Steam apps, common, Assetto Corsa. And we're literally just going to grab those 4 folders and drag them across. We should get a prompt to overwrite at some point here as well. So it's just going to copy across. Actually, didn't get a prompt to overwrite that time, so it was just combining all the files, so that's fine. And then what I would recommend doing is just closing Content Manager. So we're going to hit close here. And then once Content Manager is up and running again, we're going to click on Settings. We're going to scroll down to Weather Effects, and we're going to choose Controller Script, Sol 2.1 or whatever version it was that you just installed. And then we can also click Reset here. Now, just a quick note on weather and rain effects. So rain droplets falling from the sky, puddles on the track, rain on the windscreen, the body of the car, and so forth. So as of the time of making this video, you do need the latest preview build of Custom Shaders Patch, which is available through being a Patreon supporter of Ilja. And I'll drop a link again in the description below for you guys. So for Sol 2.1 to work, you do need to be running Custom Shaders Patch 0.1.69 or later. But for the rain and weather effects to work, you need to be running one of the preview builds of that. So if you have a look at the list here on the right hand side, you can see available versions is listed up to 0.1.75 at the time of making this video, but you can see I've got 0.1.76 preview installed. That is what I downloaded from the Patreon supporter page. So if you are running Sol 2.1, you're going to need to go to version 1.69 or later. If you do have auto update to recommended versions, that is going to push you down to, we can see here, 0.1.60. Sol 2.1 is not going to work with that installed. So you're going to end up with problems with black sky, weird shadows and things like that. That is often something that I see in forums. So just be aware of that. If you're running Sol 2.1, you're going to need to choose 0.1.69 as your custom shaders patch. And if you want those weather effects to work, you will need to be a Patreon supporter and download one of the preview builds. And then once Content Manager is up and running again, we're going to click on Settings. We're going to scroll down to Weather Effects, and we're going to choose Controller Script, Sol 2.1 or whatever version it was that you just installed. And then we can also click Reset here. Then once we've done that, we also need to enable the ability to control Sol from within the Assetto Corsa game once it's up and running. So to do that, we're going to click on the Assetto Corsa tab. We're going to click on Apps, and we're going to enable Sol Planner, Sol Weather App, Sol Config, and Sol Custom Weather here. That's going to allow us to access those menus from within the game later on so we can configure our settings. And then lastly, just to make sure we're getting the full impact of Sol, we're going to click on video. So for reflection resolution here, I'm going to set 2048, 2048. Depending on your system, you may not get away with that. So just fiddle around here, see what you can get. Rendering frequency, they recommend you don't go above 2 faces per frame. So we're going to set that. And then under filter, we're going to click on default and we're going to change that to Sol Extra. And that should be everything we need to get this working. So at this point, you've got Content Manager installed, you've got Custom Shaders Patch up and running as well as Sol. It's time to show you now how to install tracks and additional cars into the game. So again, there are a huge range of different sources online for downloading tracks and cars. We're going to start off with tracks here. One of the tracks that I've been wanting to test out for a while now is the new Pacific Coast track by Phoenix Mods. So again, Race Department is a great source for downloading tracks. All we need to do is find the track that we want, click on the download button. That will download it into our downloads directory. And then once fully downloaded, we don't need to decompress the archive. All we need to do is open up our downloads folder. So again, Windows key E to get a browser window open. Click on downloads. You can see here Pacific Coast V095. Literally just drag and drop it into Content Manager like so. You can see the little arrow here highlights. If we drop that down, you can see it says, we'll just bring that up for you. Says installing. It's going to ask us which layouts we want to install, which is obviously dependent on the track that we're installing. We click install. You can see here it is decompressing the archive and copying all the files we need. Successfully installed. And now if we click on our change track button, go to countries, go to USA, we can see PCH, which is Pacific Coast. Click OK. And it is as simple as that. So pretty much the same process again with cars, but I'll quickly run you through that as well. So again, there's a huge variety of places where we can download additional cars for Assetto Corsa. Race Sim Studio are one of my absolute favorite when it comes to high quality cars. Their cars are absolutely amazing. So they do have a couple of free ones here as well. We've got an example of one of those here now, the Formula Hybrid 2017. So we're going to hit up Race Sim Studio. We'll just drop a link down in the description below for their website as well. Click on download for free. And they'll email you a URL where you can download your new car. So we click on download. Okay, so car is downloaded. We're going to do exactly the same thing again. Show in folder and minimize our browser. Drag it anywhere within Content Manager. And again, we can see our little bar lights up. We'll drag that across for you so you can see it properly. Found 2 items, RSS Formula Hybrid. Click on install. Again, it's unpacking the archive for us and putting all the files in their correct location so we don't have to do it manually. So that is really handy. So now all we need to do is click on our change car button, find Race Sim Studio, Formula Hybrid, choose a color and skin, click on OK, and it is as simple as that. So once we've got the car and track selected that we want to drive, obviously make sure that you've mapped your controls as well. Everything is set up ready to go there. It is as simple as just clicking on the go button. And that is going to launch us straight into the gameplay. All right, so excuse the weirdness on the screen behind me at the moment. I've got Assetto Corsa on one screen and then my car desktop background on the other. So that's what's going on there. But I wanted to just quickly show you how to configure mods and stuff once they're installed, once you're actually in the game. So if we move over to the right-hand side to access the quick menu, we can click on all apps here. And we can see down the side here we have all of our standard apps, adjustments for onboard settings, field of view, triple screens and so forth. And then down the bottom here, we can see our CSP or Custom Shaders Patch apps as well. Now, if we click on Sol Planner, this is where we can control our weather from directly inside the sim. And now with triple screens enabled properly again, so you can see a bit more around me, you can see all the lightning effects and everything happening. So let's just have a quick look at how we control Sol here. So we've got this planning system. We can choose between what kind of weather we want, so we can select any of these weathers. Thunderstorm, windy, you get the idea here. Even snow is available there should you wish to do so. And you can see that generates some nice sort of white around us. So yeah, it works really, really well. We can also click along this bar to select the time of the day too. So say we want to go to the middle of the night, just click there. You can see that big lightning strike there in front of me. I think you guys probably saw that. I haven't got my ambient lighting system running or anything at the moment either. That's why it's still bright in the room. But we go across to afternoon, evening, sunset, And again, you get the idea. You can set up presets in here as well. We might do a separate video where we go into a lot more detail on exactly how this works. But I just wanted to give you a general overview. And that is that. All right, guys. So that pretty much covers everything you need to know to get started at least. There are, of course, a million other things that you can do. Let us know in the comments down below as well what some of your favorite mods are if you're experienced. Or if you do have any questions, let us know down there as well. And as we said before, there are a bunch of links down in the description to a bunch of videos which go into more detail on specifics as well as some recommendations there too. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Make sure you are subscribed as well so you don't miss future ones. And that's it, guys. I'll see you again soon. Bye.